is another episode of UFO Garage.
I'm Ben.
I'm Joe, and this is where we talk about UFOs, aliens, and all things weird.
The evidence is overwhelming that planet Earth is being visited by intelligently controlled extraterrestrial spacecraft. Some UFOs, underline the some 36 times. One of the things that characterizes most of the attacks from the noisy negativists, as I call them, is they ignore the data. And they'll say there is no UFO evidence, but you never find any references to the evidence. Don't tell me there's nothing there. This is an enlargement of that. Anybody who's close to it, really neat stuff. Let's look at the next slide. $100 million a year in 1958. Next slide. Let's look at the next one. Flying saucer, if you will. This is back in 57. In the next slide, you'll see a very exciting document. This is the enlargement of that. It's pretty neat. Next slide, please. Next slide. This is the one I worked on. Fusion, what goes on in phenomena. Next slide. Yes. We are being visited. There really are flying saucers, Virginia.
What's up, Joe? Not a lot, dude. Not a lot.
Dope.
Yeah. How's your day been today, dude?
It's been pretty awesome. I've been basically just watching a bunch of Stanton Friedman's lectures. It's been really fun. Like, I saw some stuff on Amazon Prime. Obviously did a bunch of like YouTube stuff. The guy is just a legend. I mean, I knew of him and I knew about him, but not near as much as I do now. And man, like, I just respect the guy so much after looking into him. After, like, I saw that article that, he passed away a couple months ago, and I've been interested in this, this whole thing with the archivist that has I guess been given all of his research documents. This article came out on the CBC, and I just kind of thought, I remember I texted you, I was like, I'm thinking about maybe just reaching out to Joanna Aiton-Kerr, who's the archivist in New Brunswick, Canada. And so I just sent out that email. I had no expectation. I thought, this is going to go in the wind.
That's right.
I just Googled her name and found that she's a part of this, this organization. And I mean, I didn't do that much of digging, and I found her email.
Right. Yeah.
Shot her an email. She was super nice. Got back so fast.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
We got a very special guest for you tonight.
Very special.
Yeah.
It is the Joanna Aiton-Kerr.
Yep. So here in a little bit, we'll be bringing her on, and dude, super excited about that.
Man, that was such a good interview. Like, I really didn't know what to expect. I mean, obviously, you were like, this person's probably way more intelligent than we are. It's gonna be a little,
a
little intimidating. But
yes,
she was
dude.
super nice and like super down to earth.
Yeah.
I think all your questions were really good too. Like, I liked how you just kind of focused, not really, it's like super a lot on Stanton, but more on the process and what she does for a living, which is super interesting. I think like everybody that's in this community or is a UFO researcher, maybe not so many people that are just new to this stuff know that you can go physically to places to find research. The good stuff is at these physical places.
Yeah.
These archives.
Because it hasn't been digitized and put online yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, dude.
Super awesome, dude.
Yeah, it's super sick. So, yeah, man. I mean, what is it? Stanton always said, be a unapologetic ufologist.
Oh, I wrote down. Yeah, exactly. No, he always said, like, don't ever apologize for being interested in this subject.
Oh, absolutely.
He also,
dude.
He also said, let's see. Oh, he always said, always have facts in hand before putting mouth to ear.
Yeah.
Or not mouth and ear, which is really awesome. Like, start with the facts and then start talking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of just talking about it and then having to look back, which is like not really our style. We gotta just talk about it. I mean, we try to do as much research as we can, and then just have like a normal conversation. This is
absolutely.
That's not our format,
dude.
Like, that's not our format. We're just two dudes just hanging out, talking about this stuff, having a good time. This is not like something that it's not an audiobook or as well researched as some other shows, but we have a good time.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's fun. We're just having fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was super fun looking into Stanton Friedman a lot this week. The guy is just an impeccable researcher. His whole career, I mean, he born in the 30s. He was a nuclear physicist, worked at Westinghouse, a bunch of other places, worked on the nuclear bomb back in the day. This company, what was it, McDonnell Douglas?
Yeah.
Hired him after he was out of a job for a little while working in nuclear physics. Hired him to figure out how UFOs fly and work. Like, that's why they hired him.
Yeah.
He says he shows up to McDonnell Douglas, and the person at the front said, "Oh, you haven't heard? We just laid off like 3,000 people." He's like, "Well, I have the acceptance letter in my hand."
They were like, "Hey, come work for us."
Yeah. But he said he like worked there for 3 months, and he didn't really go into too much on what he learned or what he ended up figuring out. But anyway, super, super interesting guy. If you guys are new to the podcast, new to this community, and or new to Stanton Friedman, please look him up because he's an awesome dude.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I was listening to him talk about something, and it really kind of like stuck with me. And I think it's really just this whole like kind of newer generation of ufology, I guess. How every time he would go and do some sort of conference or whatever, or just go speak to a group of people, he would always ask, how many people are like into this type of thing, or how many people have seen some sort of lights or had some sort of experience. And he said, quite a few people would always raise their hand. Yeah. And then he would say, well, how many of you have ever talked about it? And usually about like maybe 10% of the 10% of the people that like rose their hand, like, right, would raise their hand again.
It's like 1 out of 100.
Yeah. And he's like, like with this whole thing, people are so afraid of being ridiculed. Yeah. And, I mean, it's very apparent, like, in the past, people's lives have been ruined, people's jobs have been lost, they've been made out to be quacks, and that's a real bummer.
It is a bummer, dude.
But I would like to kind of like, I'm not telling anybody what to do, but I would say now,
Joe Papa Bear here.
Joe Papa Bear, I got some knowledge for you guys. I would say talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about it. Speak up.
Yeah, I recently just had an interesting event happen at my work. Joe, you already know about this, but I did this kind of presentation on UFO Congress to my company, and it's a tech company. No one's really into this stuff. At the beginning of the presentation, I asked it, like, if anybody's into UFOs or have ever seen anything, and maybe one person, which is one of my buddies that works there, like raised their hand just out of like, to not make me feel so awkward. But yeah, like I put myself out there. I talked about UFOs, and I just said, hey, I'm sure everybody thinks I'm crazy right now, but whatever. I like this stuff. And people came up to me afterwards and were like, thanks for being so vulnerable and like talking about stuff that you're interested in. Like, I hope you didn't feel judged.
Yeah.
Like, cause no one judged you. Like, you're fine. Like, no one thinks you're crazy. Like, that was really interesting.
Exactly.
Everyone loved it.
And I think that's kind of the mindset of today is like, like, man, just be what you're into. Yeah. Like, who cares if you're into UFOs or aliens? Like, I mean, you literally have people like dressing up as ponies now and like having a pony weekend. Like, who gives a shit that you're into aliens? Like, there's nowhere near as weird. You know what I'm saying?
That's such a good point. There's so much more weird stuff out there now.
Yeah.
That is such a good point.
Yeah.
It's way
people walk around with like foxtail butt plugs in and stuff like that. Like, and it's like, you're out in public and it's like, oh, well, you've got a butt plug in. Okay. But like all of a sudden I'm the fucking weird because I like aliens and UFOs. Like, get out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like, nowadays, like, culture has shifted so much that, like, if that's what you're into, man, be into that. Like, don't be afraid to say anything about it, And it is really that shift of consciousness on just, like, just the whole topic in general. Like, I don't, like I said, we've said this a million times on the podcast. Like, I don't think people think it's as weird as people used to think it is. Yeah. And it's really not. So, like, be proud, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, be proud about it, Because, like, really, I mean, now if you're in it and you're, like, talking about it, I mean, I'm not saying that, like, it's like you're on the cutting edge or anything, but, I mean, you definitely are on this new wave
I think you are.
Of people who are, like, expressing themselves through this, I mean, don't be a fucking liar and make shit up.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, if you know, if that's what you're into, then like, be cool about it. Like everybody else, like I don't think anybody else is like really like gonna judge you anymore.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I think that time is coming past, man. I
definitely.
I think it's over for sure. I think people are just curious about it and more open minded. And again, there's way worse, like weirder shit going on.
Yeah.
I saw this meme the other day. Speaking of the tail, the butt plug, the furry tail.
Yeah.
I saw this photo of somebody in Walmart, and it's this girl, and she has 9 tails coming out, like the Pokemon. And like the other part of the meme was like 9 of them, you know? I'm sure there was just 9 tails in one butt plug.
Oh, my God.
But, could you imagine, how does that fit? Welcome to the UFO Garage podcast.
Yeah, all things weird. But yeah, man, I mean, you know, and honestly, like when I wear my hat or I wear my shirt, you know, I have some of the best conversations that I could ever have.
Yeah, dude. So I started driving Uber on the weekends just because I think it'd be fun and it'd be a cool way to like, I don't know, have cool conversations. Anyway, personally, whatever. I'm doing Uber every now and then. It's not something. I have a day job, whatever. But dude, I've been wearing my hat backwards, so it has the logo on the back, and like maybe 3 of my passengers have asked about it, and we're so stoked.
Hell yeah.
Gave them stickers. I've been riding around with stickers in my car.
Nice.
So
nice.
A lot of it's like, dude, like if they're interested, they'll ask you about it. And I've had the best conversations about it. Just that people are just automatically really interested. They see the word UFO.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what does your hat mean? It says podcast. Oh, yeah, that's my podcast.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it's been pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, I mean, just doing this podcast has been so much fun, dude. I mean, it's out there for the world to hear. And I think that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's okay.
I'm having a good time, man.
Yeah, like we said before. I mean, more people want to talk about it. I think everybody's just kind of breaking out of their shell right now.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what we're here for.
You got to stretch out of that goo, you know?
Yeah, that's right, dude.
You got to tumble out of that egg, that ectoplasma, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
It might smell a little bit, you know? You've been in there for a while.
Yeah, I mean...
Most of your life.
Kind of, you know...
It's probably lots of farts in there.
Stanks.
A little stankies. It's the stankies.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah. And that kind of reminds me of a video that somebody posted on our... Was it Joseph that posted that video? Or who was it that posted the video?
The bad acting one?
Yeah.
Yeah, Joseph, yeah.
Yeah, the What Would You Do show.
The What Would You Do?
On, do you believe in aliens?
I love
or
how
not?
they treated the host like he was famous. It was so funny. They were like, I wonder if they went back, like, post-editing, like, hey, will you act like you're surprised when he comes out?
I mean, if that fool ever walked out of a room, I'd be like, oh, damn it. I was on TV. I hope I didn't say anything bad.
Also, if you look in the background, there's like 30 people behind everybody. Like, okay, all of a sudden there's a crowd full of people.
Yes.
And like everybody's looking at me.
Yes.
I'd be freaked the fuck out.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there definitely are people out there, like the lady that's portrayed in this video is like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's nothing else out there, right?
The skeptic.
And it's, you know, I mean, to each their own. No biggie. You say there is no evidence. I say the evidence is overwhelming.
Yeah.
You just really got to look for it.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the thing. I mean, we've been saying that since the beginning of the podcast. Like, this stuff is just kind of hard to see. Or kind of hard to see if you're not looking for it or wanting to dig.
Right.
I made this point in my presentation, like, I realize that my news feed is probably a lot different than everyone else's here. Like, I see a lot of news stories and people posting than they will ever see. So I realize that my perception of reality and news is a little skewed towards the UFO phenomenon and things like that. So yeah, it's just because I've been digging and stuff, and once the internet knows that you're digging for stuff, then it's just kind of flooded, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once Google knows.
Yeah, but the show, What Would You Do?
What Would You Do? Yeah, that was such an awesome video, Joseph. Thanks for posting that. That was interesting.
Yeah, dude.
If you haven't seen it, check out UFO Garage Podcast group. Check out the group. If you're not a part of the group, get in the group. We had like 10 new members this week.
Yeah.
Freaking awesome.
Bro, people love it.
If y'all are new to the group and y'all are listening right now, thank y'all so much for hanging out with us and posting stuff. Like, that's so awesome. That's dope.
It's one big happy family.
One big happy family.
Yes.
Derek posted this Chinese UFO looking thing. And I mean, this isn't some blurry photo. This is an actual photo of a aerial vehicle. I mean, what I'm trying to say is that
it's a flying fortune cookie.
Yeah, it does look for it. It's like this off gray pewter color with is that China? That's not China's logo. That's like maybe their Air Force logo.
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Got the star and the wings on it. Looks like Top Gun. But the title is China builds 400 mile per hour flying saucer attack helicopter with stealth coating and missile system. 400 miles, dude. That mile per hour. That's pretty fast.
Yeah. I mean, I bet if you flew that shit over America, our TR-3B would blow it out of the sky.
Oh yeah. Right? Oh, for sure. And we'll probably point a brown missile at them. You know what the brown missile is, right?
Is it somebody's butt?
Yeah, dude. It's that sonic weapon where they shoot sound waves at you, make you poop your pants.
Oh yeah,
the brown note.
The brown note.
Yeah. Yeah. This thing kind of looks like a brown note.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
What else we got? Oh, Andy Johnson, thanks for posting that UFO grill. That
thing
custom
is
grill.
sick.
I love that the little Toy Story aliens on it too. That's freaking perfect.
I'm sure it grills better than it flies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's sick. I love that thing, dude. That is so awesome.
Yeah.
Andy, make me one.
Yeah, I want one too. So dope.
An official UFO garage. Yeah, dude, grill.
That'd be
sick.
I love that.
I love it, dude. I love it.
That's it for Facebook. In other news, I just wanted to give a shout out to Philip Knight and Derek for donating. We have this donation button at the bottom of our website. If you want to buy a shirt, please buy a shirt. Go to our merch. But if you want to just donate and kind of just give us some support, this stuff is we love to do this. And these donations really go to just kind of bettering the podcast. What we're really saving up for right now is buying a couple of GoPros, and we want to videotape our show and put it up on YouTube. So that's what we've really been kind of saving up for, and we're so. Actually, no, we're past the point of buying the GoPros. I think we're right around the time, or right around the amount where taxes and all that stuff. And we're looking into some lights for the room because the lighting in my studio is shit. So yeah, the GoPros and the lights. So that's what we're saving up for, and we also are using it to go to these conferences. And I guess the next one that we're going to is the UFO Con. Is it you? Am I saying that wrong? The Lorian Fenton's one, is it UFO Con?
UFO Con in San Francisco.
Yeah, San Francisco. So we're going to be putting some of that, if we make any more between now and February, going towards that. It's going to help us get there, not have to, empty out our whole wallets just to do this stuff. It would really help. Because we're kind of just paying for all this stuff ourselves. So,
I know.
Yeah.
And dude, we met so many awesome people on the first one.
Yeah.
And we're having them on as guests.
Right.
And dude, it was such a good investment.
Yeah.
And, if you guys are enjoying that, dude, I mean, we're going to another conference with completely different speakers.
Yeah. So if you want to hear more people on the podcast instead of just listening to me and Joe, like have more awesome guests.
Talk about sea monkeys and dumb shit.
Yeah, perfect.
We're way more prepared this week, I feel like.
Yeah, I think so too, man. Yeah. But going to those conferences, like you meet people, we have more guests, makes the podcast better. It gives you more, interesting stuff to listen to on the podcast.
Stuff you've never heard. I mean, dude, like we've been doing this for a long time. Well, we've been into the subject for a long time, and man, these people will say stuff that blows your mind. Yeah. Like, whoa, I've never even thought about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
So it's fresh perspective, and I think it's a good ear to the ground if you're if you're on the tertiary part of just getting into the subject. You're only hearing about a couple of people, And then if you really want to get into the ground level of
the nitty-gritty.
the nitty-gritty, then I feel like I want this podcast to kind of be where people can kind of go and not only just listen to us be dumbasses, but like also get some awesome information.
Yeah, like you can have fun, but also get the nitty-gritty.
The nitty-gritty without it being so boring, you know?
Yeah, exactly,
It's
dude.
fucking boring.
I understand, man. Some of this stuff is pretty boring, but luckily we're into boring stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
We make it fun and interesting. There you go.
That's exactly right.
So that's all I got for the donations in the or the Facebook and all that stuff.
Sweet, dude.
Yeah, dude. So what else we got, man? I mean, we got the conference coming up. I'm super stoked. We got our plane tickets. We're going. What else is new, man?
Dude, hey, so I heard something the other day that was kind of interesting. Wanted to get your thoughts on it. Alien abduction.
Okay. Yes.
That's new, right?
What?
Alien abduction? No. Okay. So I heard an interesting theory on it was kind of about consciousness. And how your DNA carries more information than anything could, right?
Okay.
And so part of this breeding program, or some of the reasons that they're abducting us, and kind of mixing that genetic material, is for the consciousness.
Ooh.
So they've been abducting people over the years, and as it goes on, more and more people will have that DNA in them, and they will pass that DNA down to the next generation.
Oh, so the up-leveled consciousness is also brought through the DNA.
It's also brought through the DNA. Whoa. And so whether it be reptilian, whether it be the Greys, the tall whites, the Nordics, whatever it is, they're mixing this genetic material. And eventually you'll come to a point to where your consciousness is the same as what their level, basically.
Dude, what if it's like an iOS or an OS, an operating system for a computer, where like...
Oh, I was going to say, what's that, like a show or something?
What's iOS? On...
Independent operating system?
On island salmonella.
I don't know.
iOS is what Apple uses. I don't really know what the I means, but anyway.
Isn't it independent? Don't they have their own thing?
Maybe that's what it means.
Independent operating system?
I bet that's what it is.
I have no idea. I just took a shot in the dark, bro.
I love that. I thought you were going to say I took a shit in the dark.
Dude, you work for a tech company.
I should know that.
I know. That's so funny.
Damn it. But like an operating system where like one species of alien is kind of like the Windows.
Right.
And then other species is like Mac.
Yeah.
And others is like Linux, you know?
Right, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but eventually enough people will be on that level of consciousness that they are also on, that then and only then you will be able to understand and receive the information.
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody, like right now, we're like, dude, how come aliens don't talk to us? Right? Well, we kind of talked about this with Chris and how when he was on the podcast, and how if you receive the information, would you even know what to do with it? Would you even be able to process it or kind of break it down?
Right.
You wouldn't, right? But if you were on the same level of consciousness as them and understood kind of what they understand, only then will you be able to receive that information.
Dude.
And so these abductees that are being taken, they say when they come back, they're not the same, right? Their brains are operating different. Their IQ is like super high. You know, they almost can't cope with normal society because they're operating at such a high level now.
Right.
Right? And so I think, you know, maybe that's a big part of it.
They're like swapping out hardware.
Pretty much.
Downloading a new software.
They're just getting an upgrade. Their hardware is getting an upgrade.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's a really cool thought.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And so when they come back, you know, that's why they have such a hard time with normal society, is because now they've been upgraded and they kind of understand some of this information that's being processed. And just not enough of us have had that happen to us yet. Not enough of us have had that contact. Not enough of us have, been abducted or even can conceive the information on which they have to give us in the first place.
Yeah. I wonder, a lot of the abduction stories kind of talk about, there's this commonality between them that the aliens always communicate to them telepathically.
Right.
And I wonder if that's a native operating system part of our brain that we can understand telepathic communication, or if that's a part of the upgrade. So they're like, maybe you're on the table and they upgrade you or whatever. They put something in your DNA that just kind of rapidly spreads out. And then now you can receive telepathic communication or something like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, it may be something that, Lorian had talked about how the Greys have actually put a lock on our genetic code. Oh. And so we're kind of stuck in this where we are now.
Yeah.
But somehow you can unlock this, right?
Okay.
And so some of these people, I can't remember her name, but she was in the Seeding, the documentary The Seeding.
Melinda?
No. It was a different lady. It was the younger girl with the brown. I forget her name. But she was talking about being able to cleanse your DNA, or basically like reset it through like certain meditation practices and things like that. Which makes me wonder if you look at like the monks and things like that and how they meditate and how they're able to do this astral traveling, how they've actually learned how to cleanse their DNA or cleanse their whatever it is, their consciousness, their soul, their body, of this locked mechanism that they have on us. Whoa. So they were actually able to find source and unlock this.
Whoa.
But that's what they do. They practice this meditation every day, constantly. Some of these monks, all they do is meditate for hours.
They're emptying their trash.
Exactly. Exactly.
On their computer.
And so they're connecting to source directly. And so that's a way to unlock this whatever it is.
But yeah, I mean, so going back to, I just had a thought, and this might be just taking it in a totally different direction, but I had the thought the other day. We were talking about altering your DNA to be able to understand telepathy and telepathic communication. And I was thinking okay, what's the difference between the chimpanzee, the bonobo chimp, and the human? They're pretty close. They're so smart, those animals.
Yeah.
And a lot of apes too, the gorilla and the other chimpanzees.
The orangutans.
I don't know why I said it in that accent. Orangutans. But the difference is a lot of it is just communication and not being able to speak. So there's that speech element of it. Just imagine if you could give an orangutan or a bonobo's chimp the ability to speak.
Yeah.
And not only just the vocal cords, but the part of your brain that allows you to speak. Maybe that's kind of what these abduction and these upgrades are about, being able to. I'm just kind of equating it to that.
Yeah, totally.
Idea,
that would be
concept.
Us trying to do this to a chimp.
Right.
So they are doing that to us.
To us, right.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're like, wow, man, they're so smart and they're so close. Look how cute they are. They're so smart. What if we just took them and upgraded them a little bit so that they can communicate with us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that's kind of the same idea.
I forget who said it. I don't remember where I heard it, but they were talking about we look at gorillas and monkeys and things, and we're like, look, this gorilla can paint and he can sign language, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's the smartest gorilla on the planet, right?
Right.
To us, but if to an alien, that would be wheeling in Stephen Hawking and being like, oh, look, this guy can do physics in his head, long math problems in his head.
Right.
And Stephen Hawking is one of the smartest guys on the entire, one of the smartest guys on the entire planet. So that's the equivalent on They're so smart that Stephen Hawking is basically just the smartest monkey.
Right.
Right? Just like to us, that gorilla who can paint in sign language is just the smartest gorilla. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, dude, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
You got to believe that there's some truth to that.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I don't see why not.
Why not? I mean, that would be the most logical explanation. I mean, just putting our reality and equating it to what a higher being. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think a lot of people would say, "Oh, just because you think that doesn't mean that the aliens think the same way you do."
Right.
You know, I mean, there's a bunch of different arguments surrounding that, I'm sure, but. Yeah, dude, that's really interesting. I love that idea. You said wheeling in.
You gotta wheel that guy in.
I know where you're going with that.
He doesn't walk very good, or he didn't walk very good.
Yeah.
But
man.
yeah, it's kind of the equivalent.
I saw this thing about this experiment going on where this research facility had a bunch, maybe like I think it was like 3 different chimpanzees. And they had this little screen that they could access, these chimpanzees.
Yeah.
And they would show them for like a second this organization of blocks with numbers in them, numerical from 1 to 10. And they were all in different places on the screen. And they would show it for a second, and then they would get rid of the numbers. And they would ask the monkey, if you tap the boxes in order from 1 to 10, you get food.
Yeah.
So they would show it for a second, and they would memorize where those numbers were perfectly every time.
Yes.
But if you give that to a human, there's no way.
Yeah, dude.
A second, dude, like, bloom, bloom, gone.
We would starve.
Yeah, we would
I'm
starve.
so hungry. Can I please have a cracker?
A cheeseburger.
Please.
Give him a pizza mustache.
Can I get one of those grapes? Yeah,
dude, we'd starve. But that's like, so the point of the experiment is that their brains are just wired a different way.
Yeah.
And it's because they can't communicate the same way we do. They don't process information the same way we do. I'm not going to go into details because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
I mean, we're just Dr. Scientists.
Just Dr. Scientists. Hey, speaking of Dr. Scientists.
Yeah.
We got Dr. Scientist shirts.
We do.
In our store, dude.
And Cinnamon Terry shirt.
Cinnamon Terry, dog.
We got Cinnamon Terry shirt.
We got new shirts. I'm so stoked about those.
I know, those
dude.
are sick.
Those look so
those
sick.
are sick. I love those.
Go to UFOGaragePC.com. Check out our new shirts. They're so dope.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. But yeah, man. I mean, I don't. Do you have anything else before we kind of jump into this interview?
No, not really, man. I think we should get into it, man.
Yeah, let's do it. We've been gabbing for a while. I'm sure people already, if they haven't skipped through this part already, they're probably stoked to hear it.
Let's do it.
So check it out, guys. We got Joanna Aiton-Kerr here. She's the archivist that was put in charge of, or donated to by Stanton Friedman, all of his research for 60 plus years. He donated his research. She said it was 3 rooms full of papers and documents stacked.
Yeah.
Stacked on stacked on stacked. And
they came in on trucks.
Yeah.
That's how much information he had.
Yeah. And I mean, if you guys know about Stanton Friedman, he was a really big researcher, really in depth. He kept everything. So Joanna and her team in New Brunswick, Canada, are archiving these things, putting these documents since January of 2019, categorizing things. It's almost been a year. She says there's still more to go. It's such an interesting topic. She's such a nice woman, and I just, again, great time. So glad that she was able to come on the podcast, and yeah, it was a good conversation.
Yeah, dude, let's bring her on.
Yeah. All right, hey Joanna, this is Ben and Joe from the UFO Garage Podcast. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
We're doing great. So sorry about the technical difficulties. We've done the phone call 3 ways now, so it's a troubleshoot every time.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much for taking our call and hanging out with us tonight and chit chatting. We're really stoked to talk to you and just get to know you and what you do, and this is all in light of the Stanton Friedman documents that were handed over to be archived. And we just want to say what's up and thanks for being on the podcast and I guess let our listeners know a little bit about you and what you do.
Okay. So my name is Joanna. I am an archivist with the Provincial Archives in New Brunswick, which is in Canada. And we have had the Stanton Friedman archives as research records since, I guess we started picking them up in January of this past year. And we picked up the last cargo van full, I guess it was about 2 weeks ago now.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah.
So they're all in
it was
cargo.
That, sorry?
I'm sorry, they're all in cargo vans.
Cargo vans, yeah. Ended up being about 5 cargo vans worth of records in total. So we are talking about a fairly large collection of records that we are slowly making our way through. But it's fascinating stuff. It's probably, well, it's definitely the most unique collection that I have worked on in my 20 years of being an archivist.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's been an exciting year for me. Yeah. Did you have what types of questions would you like me to answer? So
the article that we were reading through it says that there's about 300 boxes. So I guess that thing is way bigger than just 300 boxes, huh?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be more than that. So at the time that I would have given the initial interview for that, we hadn't picked up the last load. And so it's definitely grown, and I'm not sure how big it's going to be by the time we're done with everything. We met Stan a couple of times before he passed, and every time we went into the house to pick up, a cargo van or so worth of records, he would kind of look around the basement and say, "Well, I don't have a secretary." We're like, yes, Stan, we can tell. We can tell you don't have a secretary. So we're talking about records dating way back to the beginning of his years of interest in UFO research, and they're really not in any order. There were filing cabinets around the perimeter of one of the rooms. We're talking about 3 rooms worth of records. But even the stuff in filing cabinets was not really in any particular order. So it is literally going through boxes of material where you may find one piece of a letter, and then you may never see that, like the second or third pages of a letter, until you get 20 boxes further in. So it's a matter of trying to, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. We're piecing things back together.
Wow,
so
that's got to be pretty labor intensive.
Yeah,
to have to go through.
Yeah,
all that.
it's going to be quite a long time. It's going to be a long time unless by some miracle we can dedicate some more staff time to it. But we're plowing through it as quickly as we can, because there's certainly been a demand and a lot of interest in the collection. Rightly so. I mean, it's great stuff.
Oh yeah. I bet it has been, but like you were saying earlier, it's definitely like an interesting collection. So I mean, that's got to be a lot of fun. Like, even though it's a lot of work, it's got to be a lot of fun to be able to get your hands on certain documents and things that that Friedman did, and just be able to read through his work.
Oh yeah. So actually, the way that we've been trying to do it, because I mean, we're a provincial archives in a small province in Canada, and so this is just one collection of records that we are working on, right? So a lot of the records that I deal with in my usual sorts of activities at the archives would be things like, family letters from the First and Second World War, or diaries, or business records, community records, church records. So this is completely out of the ordinary for us. So what we've been doing is we've designated Fridays, as we call them, Friedman Fridays, and a group of us get together, and we just spend definitely the afternoon, more time if we can, going through the boxes together and we're starting to separate things into categories. And because Stan had a fantastic sense of humor, we're incorporating that humor as much as we can into the categories that we're going through. So, for example, you go through a box and we'll find, half a dozen letters. It's fan mail. And it'd be fan mail maybe with the individual elaborating on an encounter that they had, either an abduction story or something that they saw out their window one day. So we're calling that group Stan's Fans. So
Awesome.
we put like that sort of thing into Stan's Fans records. And then we have what we call Promo Stan. So it's any promotional events that Stan participated in. So his lectures, lots of great posters, programs, his talks. So that sort of goes into Promo Stan. Then we have Friends and Foes. So his regular correspondence, some of the big names there, or just, people who he would have lively discussions with. So that stuff we're sort of categorizing into one section. And this is just really the first sort through. So after we've gone through all of that stuff, we're going to have to keep going through the categories to put it in some sort of order. Whether that's going to be chronological or thematic, I don't know yet. The records will tell us what we have to do, because the whole purpose of this is to make it available to the public as quickly as possible.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to do.
That's awesome. So is Stanton's collection, like, is it one of the largest, I guess, single person archives that you've had to do?
Yeah, it's probably up there. Some of the larger collections that I have dealt with personally would be things like the records of the Anglican Church in the province, and that would be the finding aid for that one is over 1,000 pages. But that's a whole organization, an institution that's been around since the 1700s in the province. Right. So that's pretty extensive. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are others, but this one is unique not just because of the content, but also it's complete lack of organization. Put it that way. So we're trying. It's really challenging because of that, but no question it's going to be worth the effort.
Awesome. Yeah, they said he was more of a stacker than a filer, right?
Yeah, definitely a stacker. And it's great fun when we're going through the records and like we'll find, say, like a little vial of something. We're like, okay, what is that? Is there any documentation with this? Was it attached to a letter maybe that could give us some context? Sometimes we're lucky and we can find a letter, like with that. I don't know if it was in that particular article that you saw, but it's just a one loose leaf sheet of paper, and it says, "Stan, here is the fragment from the Roswell incident that I told you about." So we're like, okay, yeah, that's what this person was sending to him. But some of these files, like there's liquid or there's some sort of powder. We're like, ooh, do we open that? Let's not open that. So
do you guys
putting those things aside for now?
So do you guys archive the material, like the physical material as well, or do y'all have like send that to like a separate museum or something like that, like the metals or the liquids and stuff, or do y'all hold on to those as well?
Yeah, so normally we wouldn't do that sort of thing. In the way it's set up in New Brunswick and in most provinces in Canada is you have archives and they deal with the documentation, and museums deal with the artifacts. Mm-hmm. But in this case, and in some other cases, we're going to keep it together. We'll figure out how to store it. We have a professional conservator on staff, and I'm sure he's up for the challenge. So even though we might not know what these things are, we'll figure it out. We've got a really nice repository that's climate controlled, and he can make some whatever boxes are needed to store it, and we'll make sure that it stays with the rest of the collection. I think that's important.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, that's I don't know, like that's just so lucky that Stanton would decide to donate his collection to you guys, because it's kind of one of those things where like it almost seems like like here in America, something like that happened, like the military would immediately rush in, take all of his boxes, hide it, and nobody would ever see it again. So I think that's awesome.
You're not the first person. You're not the first person to say that to me. But for us, it was just really sort of kind of like routine in a way. So there was another archivist at a different archives in the same city who sort of mentioned it to us, like, hey, I heard Stanton Friedman is retiring and he's looking for a place to take his records. Like, oh, we'll go take a look. So one of my colleagues went to take a look, and he said, oh, Joanna, that's a lot of stuff. Like, wow, we have to take it. I mean, we can't not take this. So that's what we decided to do.
Wow. So you guys approached him about taking care of these records. It wasn't like, hey, he didn't leave the records in his will or anything like that to you guys. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, no, we had approached him because somebody had told us he was looking for a place to deposit it. So one of our staff members went over, and we chatted with him, and we have like a formal donation form, and he had signed that. I think it was in January of this past year. So we had already started collecting the material. We'd made 2 or 3 trips before he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah, that's incredible. So did you know really anything about Stanton before his his stuff was about to be archived, or is that anything you've ever been interested in, like the subject that he's into, the ufology type thing, or
Oh, yeah. I mean, of course, I knew who he was. I mean, you kind of have to live under a rock to not
absolutely.
To not know who he was. I'm not somebody who spends a lot of time, studying or into the conspiracy theories or anything like that. But I mean, if someone were to ask me, do you believe in life on other planets? Yes. How could there not be?
Oh, absolutely.
And the more I read in these records, it's just so fascinating to read the stories that people sent to him. And this is the same thing. This is the same thing over and over again. They're in different parts of the world, but they're telling the same story. So it's pretty fascinating stuff. Yeah.
It all follows some sort of pattern. You start to notice a pattern going on. Yeah, that's incredible. And like with any archival collection that a person works on, as an archivist works on, even if you don't have much of a background in that subject, you learn as you go. So my first job as an archivist was actually with nuns, with an order of nuns. And I'd never met a nun before in my life. I didn't know anything about the types of records that a religious organization like that kept. But after a year or so, you really get to understand the topic and how the records are created and how they can be used in all sorts of different ways. And that's what archives are about. It's about documenting all aspects of society. And at the Provincial Archives, it's all aspects of society in New Brunswick. And Stan lived here for, 30 plus years? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we claim him as our own.
Well, yeah, I feel like you have to be a very curious person to be an archivist. I mean, that sounds like a lot of fun. You get to learn a bunch of different aspects of culture and just really dig in to read the actual documents. I mean, a lot of people in the UFO community would love to have their hands on these documents. I know that I'm just really glad that an organization exists that officially takes care of this stuff, instead of somebody, in Wyoming or something putting it all together.
Right. Right. Yeah, well, it's the best job in the world. I mean, I think of myself as being interested in many things, but an expert at nothing. And so being an archivist really gives me the opportunity to learn a lot about a whole lot of different things, but there's no pressure to be an expert at anything because I'm just helping other people find information about the topics that they're interested in. So I'm going to add UFOs to that as well.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what if not the Stanton Friedman archive, what's been your favorite project to work on so far?
Ooh, other than Stanton Friedman, let me think.
Yeah.
Gosh, there's so many.
Oh, I bet. I bet this is a hard question. I'm really putting you on the spot
yeah,
here.
It's really, let me think. Let me think about that. I mean, like, it's people usually ask me what my favorite document is, or yeah. Well, and then they're usually disappointed when I tell them the answer. But it's literally just a photograph of a little girl taken probably right around 1890. And a colleague of mine had been processing this collection. She's unidentified. We don't know who she is, but she is the spitting image of my daughter at that age.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's really cool.
It's the most amazing thing ever. Yeah, taken 100 years before she was born. But
wow, it's almost like it makes you think. Like I don't know if you're into like reincarnation, but it's got to make you think when you see the spitting image of
or everybody has like a doppelganger out there, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was her.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I'm not disappointed.
I have a fondness for things like, probably because I got my start as an archivist in religious archives, and I've worked quite a bit both with those nuns that I talked about earlier, but also Anglican church records. I find the history of the church and how it formed our province in many ways really interesting, and those records also get a lot of use. The archives are super busy. We hire a lot of summer students and interns, and I'm involved in the interviewing for that. And one of the questions that we always ask to these university students is, well, what do you think the challenges are that archives face today? And so many of them say, well, nobody really knows what archives are about, so you need to talk about archives more so that people understand how important they are. And then I look around at the people that I work with, and like we are flat out busy all of the time because we get used so much.
Yeah.
So even though I suppose there is a large segment of society that doesn't know what archives are, those who know sure make good use all the time. So
I bet it is, because when I was reading through the article, I was like, I never even thought about that. Like, I never even thought about, like, going and finding an archive somewhere, because you always just think like, oh well, I can Google it, right?
Or go to a library, but also where do those are those
exactly
documents come from?
but the stuff that you do is like it's extremely useful. And you would think that people would go there all the time. I mean, if you know.
Yeah, that we would think so. But there is the expectation, like it's the Google age, right? And so lots of people think that anything that an archive acquires, they're just going to digitize it and put it online. But it is definitely not that simple, not that straightforward. And I bet you just about any archive, certainly in Canada, would tell you that in their collections they would have less than 1% of things digitized. More things are always coming in, and a lot of work has to go into a collection before it's in good enough order to actually put it online. You digitize a mess, all you have is a digital mess, right? It's no good to anybody. It's the archivist's job to build the context and write the archival descriptions so that people are pointed in the right direction when they're researching a topic. So there's quite a bit to it. Yeah.
That makes me think of, my reading up on Stanton. He was really respected in the community because he was the person that would go out into the field and, physically go somewhere to do his research instead of, just buying a book or reading stuff online. And he would actually go to these places and look up actual photos, actual newspaper clippings, actual interviews, listen to audio.
Yeah.
So he was a really good researcher in that aspect too, which kind of brings it full circle as to why he entrusted, all of his research to somebody that does this for a profession.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and we're seeing so much of that. I mean, I've heard exactly what you said from people who have contacted us. Their interest in the records, and people who knew Stanton, and it's so interesting as an archivist to see all of the correspondence with other archivists in the collection too. Like, because he would write. Some of it was before email, of course, and so he's writing, okay, do you have anything on this topic? And they would write back. Sometimes they provide documents. Other times it would be, Stanton, we have already given you everything that we have.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
That's great. Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, just the tidal wave of information and documents. I mean, having to, if someone were to tell you, oh, you have to digitize all of this, how overwhelming that would be. I mean, it makes sense that only a small portion of it is digitized. I wonder, like, if you were, maybe I'm jumping the gun, but like, if you were to digitize stuff, what would be the easiest stuff to? Is it more like government documents that he's in possession of, or like declassified things?
For Stanton's records, what would be what would be the easiest to digitize?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Ooh, let me think. Probably some of the research material. We also just acquired the backup of his hard drive. He had his computer backed up, and so we have that as well. So that's already digital, but we haven't looked at it yet. So I don't know what's on there yet. I have a good idea, but it's probably not stuff that we would just put up online right away, just because it's already digital.
Probably a lot of vacation photos, maybe.
He certainly traveled a lot. That's for sure.
Yeah, he absolutely did. I mean, he spoke in every 50, in all 50 states, and over like 600 colleges or something like that.
Yeah,
and, outside of the United States, he spoke everywhere.
Yeah.
So
all over the world.
Yeah.
I think and not just at conferences, but there's letters from school kids, thanking him for coming to their classroom and speaking. So
wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah. So you actually got to meet Stanton before he passed, right? Or
yes. I two or three times. Yes. Yeah. Wow. He would come downstairs and chat away with us as we were packing up the boxes, and if we had questions, he would answer, and just a real gentleman, and very funny, like just a fantastic sense of humor.
Yeah,
so it was,
I hear he's a big joker.
Yeah. There's I don't know if this picture was in the article, but there was a paper mache mask that somebody had made for him.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. So it's made to look like an alien, but you can also tell that it's supposed to be Stan. I wasn't there when this happened, but one of my colleagues picked it up and said, "Okay, Mr. Friedman, do you want us to take this, or is this something you want?" And he just looked at it and rolled his eyes and said, "Well, I don't wear it very often." So we packed it up and took it, and so that's actually hanging on the wall in my office. But I should box it up and put it in the repository like a good archivist. But
oh, that's so great.
I would put that in a glass box, definitely. That sounds like a pretty awesome piece to have.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
Yeah, we were. So he was supposed to speak at a UFO Congress that me and Ben attended, and unfortunately he had passed away a couple months right before we went to go see him, and man, I was really, really bummed because he was one of the main guys that I really wanted to see. Yeah. But it was a real bummer. It was a real bummer. I wish we would have had the chance to meet him because that guy had the best eyebrows I've ever seen.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got really.
Yeah. So many of the letters that we come across are just from people who saw him speak, and they just wrote simple little 2 or 3 line letters. I saw you in such and such a place. Thank you very much. I was the gentleman wearing the yellow sweater, and we had a nice chat. And I just wanted to know, wanted you to know how much that meant to me.
Wow.
Just little short letters like that. So I think that's a real indication of his character and what a gentleman. Yeah,
it's such indicative of his character. Definitely. Like, I mean, who would keep that stuff other than somebody that really cared about somebody that tried to reach out and communicate with him. That's really cool to hear.
Yeah, he kept it. He kept thousands of them.
Yeah, 6 truckloads of it.
6 trucks.
That's a lot, man. That's so much. That's so much. So as you guys are going through these archives, I assume you have a team that's going through these archives. Everybody kind of has their own little section, but you kind of managing, I guess, the team. Everybody kind of reads through like a portion of it. So I would assume maybe like everybody kind of reads through like 10, maybe 20% of the total archive. But you as a manager, I mean, do you end up like reading through all of this stuff?
That's not going to be possible. No.
Yeah.
So the way, I wish, but if I did nothing else, then I could do that. But the way that we do it is we're all together in a room that used to be my workroom for all sorts of things. Now it's just it's all Stan. It's all Stan.
The Stan room.
The Stan room. We have posters up and everything, and so we sort of sit around a bunch of tables, and we each get a box, and we just talk about what we're seeing. So it's just all of us communicating like, okay, I have this this publication. Has anyone seen this before? Yes. Okay. So then we put it in a pile of duplicates. Nope, that's new. Okay. It goes into this pile. We literally have Tupperware bins going across the length of the room. Like, we're talking about sorting things into buckets. That's the only way that we're going to be able to get through the first categories. So after we've gone through everything once, then we'll have maybe one team of people looking through all the fan mail again and starting to put that into order.
Wow.
Then another group of people might look at all of the research and starting to categorize that. And after we get through that section, maybe it's a matter of, okay, you're going to look after all the Roswell. You're going to look after all the Barney and Betty Hill, because it's important for the same pair of eyes to look through everything, because there's a lot of duplication. He loved to print things over and over. Yeah. But you also have to make sure that they are exact duplicates, because notations are important. So you just want to make sure that it's the same people going through, because you understand the records, you understand the connections, the more you look at it. And so you don't want different people jumping in at different stages. You want to have some continuity there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, so how long have you guys been going through this stuff so far?
Well, we did the first pickup in January, and because we have limited space to actually do the processing, that's why we picked it up in stages.
Right.
So we pick up a cargo van, go through the cargo van. Okay, we've got floor space again. Let's go get another cargo van. That's the way that we've been doing it.
Right.
But now that we have everything, I keep trying to do an estimate in my head as to how long it would take to get everything perfect. And in archives, there's really no perfection. You just want it to be available. So in some good order, so that people can use it and find things that they're interested in. I think it would probably take, say there were 2 people dedicated on it full time, so like 9 to 5 every day, every working day. It would probably take 2 people 4 or 5 years to do it. There's that much stuff. Wow. Yeah, and that might be conservative.
He must have had a huge basement.
Something.
There were 3 rooms.
Oh,
there
that's
were 3
right.
rooms.
You said that.
Yeah, 3 rooms, and there would be filing cabinets, and we'd clear a filing cabinet. We're like, oh, there's a filing cabinet behind that filing cabinet. It was pretty great. Yeah.
Wow.
So we were done. Like, oh no, we're not done. We're not done.
Well, I tell you what, if you need 2 people full time for 4 or 5 years, me and Ben are available.
We're available.
Yeah.
We're not very organized. We're not good listeners.
I'll keep that in mind.
Oh man.
So I need to get this question out there, Joanna. I know I need to kind of feed my conspiratorial part of my brain, and I'm sure there's a lot of our listeners that are wondering kind of the same thing. But in the UFO community, when there's speakers or people in the community that are really big researchers, sometimes they get their hands on declassified or maybe some documents that have not been classified, and they're kind of, would be seen as dangerous to the U.S. government. And I'm curious, and my question is, has there ever been a minim and a black suit show up at any point and to kind of to see
Nope.
if you're okay?
Nope, not yet.
I had to ask.
Canada's awesome.
Yeah, no, nothing like that at all. It's been it's just been a lot of fun. Nobody has. I mean, I've had lots of phone calls about it, but nothing of that nature.
Oh wow!
At all.
Well,
yeah,
that's good to hear. Actually, I mean, that kind of maybe puts out the fire of a lot of people that are like, oh, well, yeah, I'm sure the Men in Black are going to show up at any moment. It's good to hear that it's almost been a year and no weirdness. I mean, it sounds like there hasn't been any weirdness surrounding all of these documents. I mean, the guy was interested in Roswell, brought Roswell back into the public eye with all these documents and research and proof and testimony, and you'd think that would be a very an interesting thing to the U.S. government to kind of, if they were trying to cover this whole thing up, they would want to see that, maybe if there is some documents out there that Stanton got his hands on, like maybe that would never see the light of day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because he's got stuff on like MJ-12 and Project Blue Book, and documents from Roswell, and these are things that the government guarded very, very closely, and did not want people to know about. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, no, I can absolutely say that nobody has contacted us with anything other than, hey, this is amazing that you guys took all of this stuff. When can I research? And it's certainly not. It's no U.S. government Men in Black. No, not yet.
That's good. That's good.
Maybe they don't know that we have it. Maybe the podcast will be the link and somebody will show up. But no, not yet.
Well, that's good.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. So that the little metal fragment that was supposedly from the Roswell incident. Have you held it? Have you touched it?
Yes, I have held it. I have touched it. I have. It's quite small, maybe just over a centimeter, and fairly light. It looks like a piece of melted something, and it's shiny. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's a light little fragment of melted something.
Oh wow!
I'm so interested.
Was there any? Well, I guess you guys are gonna have to go through all the documents to find out. But I'm curious to know if he ever got that tested and if there's any paperwork that goes along with it. So
I haven't seen anything at all to indicate that he had it tested, but we're certainly keeping an eye out for that. I mean, people sent things like charred fragments of wood too, and saying, okay, I picked up this piece of wood after I saw something hovering in the wooded area in my backyard, and my brother-in-law went out and he got this, but there's no indication that I've seen so far that he got any of these things tested.
So I'm curious as to, like, what if there were to be somebody to contact you and ask you, hey, can I borrow this? I mean, I think there's something along the lines of when they do test these elements, they do have to dissolve part of it, or maybe sometimes in some cases all of it. So, I mean, in that case, what would you say to some? Not that we're asking you right now, but like we're not asking you if we can take it.
Pick it up all that.
Well, Stanton donated. He donated the material to the archives, and so it is now it's the property of the provincial archives, and we don't let things go out.
Yeah. Okay.
So once it's there, people can come in, they can use it, they can photograph it, they can use it for whatever purpose they want. We don't discriminate in any way about that. But to have something like that tested, I mean, obviously, we've never had anything like this before. No one has ever asked to test anything that we've had in the archives before. So I guess that's something we'd have to consider. But I don't know. It would be with great hesitation that I would let it. Yeah. That we would let it.
Oh yeah,
go out.
I prefer it that way. I'm glad you feel that way.
Yeah,
definitely. I think it's kind of like the Mona Lisa.
You gotta hold on to that thing.
Definitely, because right now there's a piece of metal that's circulating. It's it was apparently sent to Art Bell a long time ago, and then Linda Moulton Howe, who's another ufologist, she got her hands on it, and now there's a group, and they're called To the Stars Academy, and they have this piece of metal, and they've done tests on this metal, and it's down to the molecular structure. It's layered in a way that we can't layer it. So it like our material science hasn't advanced to the level that it would take to be able to make this type of metal. And some of the metals that they have found in this metal piece are actually metals that aren't found in the Milky Way galaxy. They're from a neighboring galaxy. That's the only place that you can find that metal. So I'm curious now to know about this piece of metal, and if Stan really did get it tested or something, because that would be incredible.
Yeah, if I see anything, I can let you know. But as far as I have seen so far, it was piece of loose leaf, little baggie stapled to it, in a pile with a bunch of other letters.
It seems kind of a little haphazardly, just kind of,
Yeah, I'm gonna send it through the mail. I got this at the Roswell incident. Here it goes. I'm gonna send it. I don't trust the United States Postal Service to deliver anything, much less a fragment from the Roswell crash.
yeah. Well, it got into his hand somehow anyway. As to what it is, I wouldn't even hazard a guess. But
that's crazy.
I have held it, and nothing happened to me. So it's
well, that's
it's
good.
Not hazardous in any way, in an obvious way, anyway.
Right. How is the Canadian Postal Service? Is it pretty reliable?
Yes, I guess so. Yes.
Right on. Yeah. Down here, man, stuff just goes missing
all the time. They still have.
Okay.
I ordered something from Amazon, and they still have it. They won't give it to me. Every time I go, they're like, "Oh, we can't find it."
Yeah, they want you to go pick it up,
and then I go to pick it up, and they're like, they'll spend like 30 minutes back there in the warehouse, and they come back, and they're like, "What size is the box again?"
You're like, I don't know. You're the one that got it. I haven't even seen it yet.
You called me to come pick this thing up.
Oh man, yes, absolutely, man.
That is not something I can help you with.
Oh man. So I know you went to college, and you studied history, and like you have your master's in archival studies, right? So is there anything that you were like, I don't know, like I kind of like as a kid, I never thought, ooh, I'm going to be an archivist. You know what I'm saying? But it's also such a cool thing to end up doing. Like, what was your goal? Like, what was your thing? Like, as a young girl, did you dream of being an archivist?
I was a kid, and that's not the norm at all. But my family had a friend who was an archivist at a university, and on summer vacations, we'd stop in to see her, and the archives was actually in the basement of a university library behind an actual cage. Whoa, and I thought, as a kid, that was just the coolest thing ever.
That is cool.
And the smell, like just the smell of old paper and the boxes of things that you don't know what's inside. So I started working there as a university student. I went to that university and did my history degree there. And there's a few schools in Canada where you can do a master's in archival studies. So I went to one of those, and I've been hooked ever since, I guess.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of fun. It's a really fun career.
Yeah, I can totally relate to the like what's inside the boxes. I think that's something that sparked me and Joe to even start this podcast, is like, we want to know these questions, these little boxes that are everywhere. We want to know what's inside of it so bad that we love it so much that we just want to talk about it and start a podcast. So I definitely get that sentiment where there's just this mystery, and although your topic is probably usually a lot more grounded into reality sometimes than some of the things that I'm usually interested in. But I definitely,
it's just that curiosity.
It's a curiosity. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, well, and sometimes you open up a box and then you shut it really fast because it's stuff that you just don't want to deal with. But, it's the box that's still there lurking in the corner. So you have to get it eventually.
Yeah, well, we're slowly opening this box of the UFO subject, and it's one of those things where sometimes I have had to close the box because it's become so real. A lot of the stuff that we've uncovered since we started this podcast in June. I mean, me and Joe have always been interested in the subject, but when we really started doing this podcast and talking to people and looking and doing more research, it's just becoming this phenomenon is becoming so real and just rooted in reality. And it's been really fun to learn everything that goes along with it, including this thing with Stanton and the archive. And I just want to thank you so much for talking to us today. Like this has been so
I know
awesome.
it's been really, really awesome.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
sure.
no, happy to do it. And if you want to follow up in a few months to see how the progress is going, then I'm more than happy to chat with you again.
Actually, absolutely, that would be so great. And again, I just kind of want to tell our listeners that I didn't really expect you, Joanna, to get back to me so soon, and I just really appreciate that. And a lot of times I kind of reach out to people and see if they'd be interested in being on the podcast. So I just really appreciate your willingness to go on the podcast and just have a cool conversation with us tonight.
Oh yeah, no, happy to. I never miss an opportunity to talk about archives. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I know I've got one more question for you.
Yeah.
I've got one more question. So obviously, right, we sit around and we ponder the universe and we really think, oh, yeah, there's life out there, right? But we never really kind of take it to heart, right? It's just kind of a thought that we have. So as you've been going through these documents and everything that Friedman had, does it kind of take it to another step of reality for you, like as you're going through this?
Oh, geez. Maybe that'll probably happen after I feel like the collection is in some state of control.
Right.
So when I'm going through this stuff right now or working with my colleagues working on this stuff, a lot of the time it's like, okay, we need to get through 10 boxes. We need to get through 10 boxes today. So I'm not in that particular headspace.
Right.
But as we start to get past that big bucket sorting, I expect, especially going through things like the fan mail. We read a lot of that aloud as we're going through. We're like, hey, this one's from my hometown, and so we read through. We're like, oh man, I mean, that person started the letter with, "I'm a retired nurse. I have never believed in UFOs, and this is what I saw."
Wow.
So when you start to read that over and over and over again, you sort of start, like, oh, wow, that's it's the same story. So it's maybe once I stop having to think about, okay, Dan wanted this stuff available to the public, we've got to get it out there as fast as possible. Once that level of we got to do this, then I'll ponder a bit more.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, hey man, that was really good. Again, thank you very, very much for responding and getting back to us. And we definitely want to stay in contact with you in the next couple of months and kind of see. We want to follow the progress and we want to let people know what you guys are doing. And it's so important. Like, we think this is so important. And even if people don't understand, like, what an archivist does or what you guys are doing over there, we want to get the word out because this is incredible. And it's really, really awesome that you guys took on this massive project. And I'm so happy that that's what's happening with all of his material.
Well, thank you. Thanks. That's great to hear.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Well, all right, Ben, you got any more questions?
I'm good. I can't wait to follow up with you. I mean, it's just so exciting. And I'm just ditto to what Joe said. I mean, this is like super important. Everything that goes into this culture and this, the research, it starts here. It starts with the people that really care about the subject and want to preserve it. So again, I just wanted to thank you, Joanna, so much. And your team too. Well,
I will extend your thanks to them on Freedman Friday.
Oh, Freedom
All
Freedom
right.
Friday.
Well, all right. Well, thank you very much,
Okay.
Joanna. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye now.
All right,
Bye.
bye.
Well, dude, that was sick.
That
man.
was so sick.
Yes, I'm so glad that she was able to come be on the podcast with us.
Yeah, man. Again, like it's crazy how this whole thing worked out. I remember I texted you, wanted to reach out to the archivist that was in charge of Stanton Friedman's research, and sent out that email, not expecting anything. And she got back to me super quick.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
super
dude. I
awesome
didn't think she
person.
was ever gonna get back to us.
Yeah, like you said, like months maybe.
Yeah, I thought she was gonna just kind of blow it off.
Yeah.
So that was super cool of her to do that, man. That
So
was
cool.
so awesome.
Yeah.
Such a nice lady, man.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, and I can't wait to keep in touch with her through
Yeah.
this entire process.
Yeah, the keeping in touch is going to be fun. I'm glad that she invited us to follow up and call her again. I'm sure we're going to have her on the podcast and maybe a couple episodes from now, or maybe a couple months or something like that.
Yeah.
I'd love to kind of follow up and think of questions we should have asked, things like that. I
Yeah.
know we're gonna think about stuff that we should have asked her.
Yeah, if you
tomorrow.
guys have any questions that you have for Joanna, let us know, and
Yeah.
we'll totally ask her. We'll ask her, any questions you guys got.
Definitely.
I think in a like maybe in like a year or two, we should take a trip up to Canada.
Ooh,
Yeah,
dude, that would be so dope.
and go visit and maybe have her kind of show us around, show us the place.
You think we get in trouble for touching too many things?
Probably she'll be like, "Stop touching things."
That's exactly what would happen.
Oh man. Well, hopefully after like 2 or 3 of these, she'll kind of start to come around to like what kind of people we are.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I'm sure she's from academia, and I mean, obviously a very intelligent person. I think the dissonance was a little that we all loosened up, and it's always a little weird meeting people for the first time.
Oh,
We've never talked to
absolutely.
this person ever, so
Yeah.
I think next time we call her, we're gonna be like, Joanna, what's up, girl?
I think we all handled it pretty well. She was like, "These dumbasses."
Yeah. No, she was super respectful. I'm glad she didn't be like.
Yes.
I'm glad she wasn't like, all right, these guys are idiots.
I had to contain myself a little bit because when she was like, it was just something about like opening a box with a surprise inside of it. I want to be like, you mean like when you open cereal and like you get the color changing spoon inside? I'm glad I didn't say that, but I was thinking it because I totally thought about that. I was like, yeah, just like cereal boxes.
Just like cereal,
Yeah, dude. Has that ever happened to you where you bought a cereal box thinking that there was something inside, but then you open it up and you were like, oh, god damn it.
Dude.
This is like with proof of purchase and you have to send in the tops.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Aw."
It used to happen all the time when I was a kid. You'd open up a cereal box and there'd be something in there.
Yeah, because you could not read good.
Dude, yeah. Well, there was always like a little toy or some kind of thing you could cover or color. Like in the Trix boxes, I remember there being something in the cereal box. But nowadays, man, they don't have any toys.
Oh, I know, man. I know. Yeah. Yeah, but
You were talking about the Happy Meal. y'all always get the toy.
yes, all the time.
Where do y'all should start putting them like in a specific place, like a little shrine.
Yes.
You know.
Happy Meal Toy Shrine. But yeah, dude, that was sick, man.
that was
Super
awesome.
super happy that she reached out to us because that's super important, dude.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me feel like we're part of the team.
Yeah, I feel like we're part of the posse now.
I think we should send Joanna an honorary UFO Garage podcast shirt.
Yeah, we should.
She needs one.
We need to send her some shirts for sure.
Is
Let's
it
do
polite to ask a lady what size she wears?
Yes. Wait, no. Let's just send her. Wait, I don't know how to answer that question.
Well, maybe we could send her a whole bunch of smalls, and she
Yeah.
would be like, "Actually, these are too small for me," and they'd be like, "Oh, my bad. You seem so petite."
We like never seen her. In real
Yeah,
life.
we don't even know what she. Yeah, I mean, I know she looks like through the internet and stuff, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, well, then what size do you wear? Maybe she'll just be like, well, I'm a medium.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm a smedium.
A schmedium.
A schmedium. Yeah, dude. Yeah, we should hook her up with some gear. for
Yeah,
sure.
let's send her team like just a bunch of different shirts
That'd be cool.
with the new Cinnamon Terry shirt.
Cinnamon Terry,
Cinnamon Terry, dog. And the new Dr. Scientist shirt. Y'all check it out. We got new shirts on our website. Check them out, y'all. They're so dope.
Yeah, UFOGaragePC.com is where you can check all of it out.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, thanks y'all so much for listening to this episode.
All right, man. It was a good one. It was a good one, for sure.
Hell yeah.
All right, guys. We'll talk to y'all next time. And this was what was it, man? I think it was another episode of UFO Garage.